You think you are smart? That is meaningless? In South Korea, intelligence does not save you. What saves you is Nunchi. It is faster than intuition. It is sharper than IQ. If you cannot read the room, you will be eliminated. This is not politeness. This is the art of survival of a nation rising from ashes. Are you ready to read the world? This video does not teach etiquette, does not seek emotional healing. We will analyze Nunchi as a mechanism of practical survival designed to protect individuals, maintain order, and navigate power-filled relationships. Part 1 analyzes the historical context of South Korea, war, poverty, and invasion forced the people here to develop reading abilities. How? Part 2 clarifies Nunchi is not empathy, but is a system of data collection to determine status, from family, school, to the massive chaebol conglomerates. And Part 3 asks the key question: how is this superpower operating in the modern world? Does it create massive success, or trade off with mental exhaustion and social pressure? If a society operates based on silence, according to you, does the individual voice still have value? Share your perspective in the comments section and stay until the end of the video. Part 1 Survival Instinct. To understand Nunchi, we must look back at the world map. Where is South Korea? A small peninsula, squeezed tight between giants? China to the west, Japan to the east, and Russia to the north? History records: this nation has been invaded over 800 times throughout 2,000 years. Imagine you live in a house where the front door is always kicked open by strangers at any time. In that context, you cannot defeat the enemy with muscle power. You are too small. You must use something else. That is information. You must observe. Is the enemy happy or angry? What do they want before they open their mouths? That is when Nunchi was born. Author Uni Hong, in the book The Power of Nunchi, affirmed Nunchi is a superpower of the underdog. Koreans have a saying: if you are quick-eyed, you can eat pickled shrimp. Right in the temple? What does that mean? It means rules can be bent if you know how to read the atmosphere. Look at the structure of feudal society. The king does not need Nunchi because he commands. Everyone must listen. But officials and slaves need absolute Nunchi to keep their heads on their necks. If the king frowns, you must tremble before the king scolds. This is not cowardice. This is wisdom. Nunchi teaches that survival does not belong to the strongest, but belongs to the one most sensitive to the changes of the environment. From the ashes of the Korean War in 1953, South Koreans had nothing left, no resources, no money. The only thing they had was people, was human resources, ready to work twice as hard as others. To survive, they had to use Nunchi to read the world's needs. What did the world need? They made that. They exported wigs. They built ships. They made steel faster than anyone else. That is Nunchi at a national level. But Nunchi does not stop at economics. It is ingrained in every breath of language. Did you know? The Korean language is a minefield. Socially, in English, you say hello to the boss and to the dog exactly the same, but in Korea, that is suicide. There are at least 6 levels of honorifics, depending on who is standing in front of you. Before you open your mouth, Nunchi must operate like a scanner. How old is this person? What is their position? What is the relationship? What is the context? If you scan wrong, you use the wrong word, you are not just rude, you are insulting them, and your career could end right at the greeting. That is the reason Koreans often ask age right when meeting, not because they are curious. They are collecting data to set up the Nunchi system for the conversation, and this skill is taught before the alphabet. A Western child is taught how to confidently speak their opinion. Be yourself. But a Korean child is taught how to observe others. At kindergarten, if the class is quiet and you are noisy, you are one without Nunchi. Koreans have a saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Nunchi teaches children that safety lies in conformity, not standing out. This is the legacy of Confucianism, where social order stands higher than individual emotion. You do not exist as an independent individual, you exist as a piece in the overall picture. Your duty is not to ruin that picture. This very pressure turned Nunchi into a second instinct. It needs no effort. It runs automatically in the Korean brain, just like breathing. If you stop breathing, you die physically. If you stop Nunchi, you die socially. Core philosophy. Intelligence is knowing how to solve problems, but survival wisdom is knowing where the problem is before it happens. Interactive question. According to you, in modern life, who needs Nunchi more? The powerful boss or the new employee? Leave your opinion below. Part 2. Corporate weapon and brutality of hierarchy. Welcome to the real world of the Republic of Chaebol, where Samsung, Hyundai, SK make up over 80% of national GDP. But behind those massive numbers is a working environment likened to the military. Look at the event that shook 2014, the nut rage case. Ms. Cho Yun-ah, vice president of Korean Air, forced the plane to turn back just because the chief flight attendant served macadamia nuts in a plastic bag instead of on a plate. The press called it madness, but from a Nunchi perspective, it was a failure of reading the room. The chief flight attendant failed Nunchi in understanding the kibun of the boss, but more importantly, the vice president failed Nunchi with the whole world. She did not read the public's anger, and the result? She lost her position and had to go to prison. This is living proof. Nunchi is a double-edged sword. In large corporations, like Samsung, there is a term called Samsung Man, referring to employees who are absolutely loyal. They not only work well, they must have Nunchi at an Olympic level. According to OECD data, South Koreans work over 1.900 hours per year, ranking among the highest in the world. But that number does not include hosik, the mandatory drinking culture. You think drinking is for fun? No. This is the third shift. Why do I say that? Because at the drinking table, You must observe the boss's glass. It is never allowed to be empty, but also must not be poured when full. A sociological study showed that employees with good nunchi at the drinking table have a promotion rate 30% higher compared to those only good at expertise. Why? Because they create peace of mind for the leader. They prove subtle submission, but its dark side is what? It is the gapjul phenomenon. The Oxford Dictionary had to update this word. It refers to the behavior of brutal abuse of power by superiors. In 2018, the scandal of the family of Hanjin Group, when the chairman's wife was accused of throwing a water glass at an employee and cursing at the driver. This is gapjul, and in this environment, Nunchi is the only shield for workers. They must use Nunchi to scan the emotional radar. Is the boss happy today? What does this tone mean? Before reporting bad news, if you have no Nunchi, you will be the next victim of gapjul, and this burden is even heavier for women. Sociologist Arlie Hochschild calls this emotional labor. In Korean offices, women are often defaulted to have better nunchi, to smile more, to make coffee, to soothe the tension created by men. If a male director is silent, that is authority. If a female employee is silent, that is lack of subtlety. This is a double standard, making Korean women increasingly exhausted and refusing marriage as a way to escape the burden of serving emotions. Are you working in an environment full of pressure like this, where silence is scarier than shouting? Share your story by liking this video so we can discuss core philosophy. In the world of power, truth does not lie in words. Truth lies in what people do when they think. No one is watching. Interactive question. The nut rage case or forced drinking culture? According to you, which is scarier? In the corporate environment? Comment below. Part 3. The double-edged sword and the cost of perfection. We have seen how Nunchi helped Korea turn into a dragon, but every medal has a reverse side, and the reverse side of Nunchi is a society exhausted from anxiety. Imagine your brain like a radar. It spins 24/7. It scans continuously. What is that person thinking? Am I bothering anyone? Am I sitting in the wrong place? When you spend your whole life reading others' thoughts, you forget how to read your own thoughts. You become a chameleon. You change color continuously to fit the environment until one day you look in the mirror and ask yourself, what is my true color? No one knows, including you. This is the reason South Korea has a suicide rate highest in the OECD. For nearly 2 decades, Mapo Bridge in Seoul is called the Bridge of Life, but in reality, it is the place many young people choose to end the pain. Why? Because in a society with Nunchi too high, personal failure is not just failure, it is shame. It is a burden for family and society. People fear bothering others to the point they dare not cry for help when desperate. This is a painful paradox. South Koreans are good at reading emotions, but are very bad at sharing real emotions. They have a concept called han, a sorrow and resentment soaked deep into the bone marrow, cannot be spoken out, can only be swallowed inside. But is Nunchi completely bad? No. The answer lies in usage. We need to distinguish two types of Nunchi. The first type is Nunchi out of fear. You observe to defend, to not be scolded, to not be excluded. This is toxic Nunchi. It drains vital energy of yours. The second type is Nunchi out of empathy. You observe to help. You see a colleague tired. You quietly place on their table a glass of warm water. No need for words. No need for recognition. That is healing Nunchi. The secret of happiness is not throwing away Nunchi, but knowing when to turn off the radar. You need to have Nunchi with yourself first. Are you okay? Is your soul screaming? If you cannot love yourself, all subtlety with the world is fake. The new generation of Koreans is starting to realize this. They start saying no. They start leaving forced hosik parties. They are learning how to live for themselves. Core philosophy. Do not use your eyes just to look at others. Use them to look deep inside, because the only person you need to please until the end of life is yourself. Interactive question. I know. Maybe you are also tired because of trying to please too many people out there. If allowed to turn off radar in one day, what would you do first? For yourself? Share gently. If you want. We are always here listening. Outro. The journey of decoding about Nunchi pauses here. We have traveled a long way from the villages ruined after the war to the meeting rooms cold of Samsung. We have seen Nunchi is not simply politeness. It is blood. It is tears. It is survival wisdom of a nation never surrendering to fate. But the biggest lesson is not how to manipulate others. The biggest lesson is reading the world is to survive, but understanding yourself is to live. Do not let sensitivity become a burden. Use Nunchi like a lamp, lighting the path you walk, not to burn your soul. If this video touched you at some deep level, do not hesitate. Press the subscribe button right now so that we can explore together again the hidden corners of humans and life in the next videos. Thank you for spending precious time to listen. I am Stanley. This is Daily Life Stories. Goodbye, and see you again.